How's it going, Yo fam? I'm your host, Devon Long, and joined by my co-host, Makayla, and welcome to Caldwell Courtside. Today we'll be interviewing head cross-country coach and track coach, Dom Bolin. How's it going?
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're super excited to have you on. Kind of wanted to get things rolling with a little bit of introducing yourself. Tell us a little about who you are and your background.
Cool. Yeah, so I have been here at C of I I went here obviously as a student, graduated in 2014. Kind of a fun fact, I'm son one of 10 kids. I'm number 5, I'm right in the middle, and there's 6 of us that have graduated from here. So actually currently our youngest sister, she's a senior on our team this year, Sarah. So kind of a fun fact of us. So kind of been C of I's in our blood, I guess you would say. And so I was very familiar with the college. Both my older brothers are 8 and 10 years older than me, but they were here before me, but very familiar. I remember walking on campus with my mom to kind of visit, and I already kind of knew where everything was. And then obviously just came here. Big thing was obviously recruited from a couple people locally, and just felt like this was the right fit for me. I really had a great connection with our current coach at the time, Pat McCurry, and just thought he would be the best place to obviously develop me as an athlete. And then obviously the academics are a big part of it too. But very familiar with all that from the background of my family being here.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like you did touch on that family affair aspect, but were there any other very significant things that really drew you to C of I as an athlete?
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt like sometimes it's kind of hard in the realm of athletes. I mean, obviously the perception you have of yourself is trying to have a good idea of big school, small school, what is that? And I knew coming out of high school, I was not very developed as a runner. I played soccer for a long time, did a lot of other sports, played baseball. So I was late to running. And one of the things that was really connected with me was I could come to a smaller school with a really good team, and I knew I could develop and then get to where I wanted to be. And so that's just where I kind of gravitated to more towards those smaller schools when I was looking for places to go. But yeah, that and just the small, obviously family is a big thing to me. So I think, oh man, my family's probably going to kill me for this. I don't even know. There's 27 nieces and nephews now. There's a ton of them. And so we're all very local. And so that family affair and that closeness that this campus brings and C of I brings was just a big draw to me.
Yeah, for sure. And even being someone who, as you said, was kind of late to running, you had quite an impressive career here and just in general. So tell us a little bit about some of your favorite moments as an athlete.
Yeah, I think obviously the team was just wonderful. Obviously, Pat McCurry was great and really developed me personally as an athlete and as a human. But some of the things that kind of stand out were, obviously going to those national meets is always fun. And so between indoor and outdoor track, obviously cross country, I think probably the biggest one that stands out, our DMR, my senior year, we were 3rd. And that was just something that was really cool. That was the highest finish I ever had. I was 4th individually in the 1500 later that spring. But I think both of you guys know, coming from team atmospheres, cross country and track and field is very difficult because it can be very individualized as you try to bring this team atmosphere and wrap it all together. But going back from in high school, won some state titles, different things like that. But all of my fondest memories are of team success and team winning. I felt like I always just tried to do what was, the right thing. And so for me to improve wasn't that big of a deal, but to get the team collectively as a group and raise them up and everyone to hit on the same day or the same season was a huge part of that. So that's something that really sticks out, of just all 4 of us guys on the same relay hitting on the same day and being top 3, which is pretty big.
Awesome. That's incredible. I know Devon and I can both relate to that team environment.
Yeah.
And kind of transitioning into more of now your coaching career. Did you always know that you wanted to coach and be a head coach and run an organization?
To be honest, no, not really. I mean, I remember growing up and being team captain and stuff like that in our teams, and growing up playing soccer. My dad was my head coach. And so lots of times if we do small-sided games, sometimes I would kind of split up and I would kind of help coach some guys, but didn't really, probably later on in my career, I did get a minor in coaching here. And so later on as life went on, it was just something that always interests me. I'm a very competitive person. And so you kind of get removed from it. I ran a year and a half, 2 years post-collegiately. But I really missed was that team atmosphere. And so that one way I could get into it and still be in the competitive realm was coaching.
Yeah.
And so went back, coached at high school, where I went to school for a couple of years between soccer and track. And then when Austin Vastarchia got promoted to the head coach, he brought me on as an assistant. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah.
And then once you get into it, it feels like it's just a lifelong thing. You're just always going to be doing it. And so it's even the the simplest things of like, just talking to my niece and nephews about one of them's in cross country right now and trying not to be too coachy of the uncle and just support them. And I'd be like, well, you should do this and you should do that. It's like, no, just let him do his thing. But it feels like it's just always a part of you.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've established such incredible roots here just in the area and the school altogether. I think your career both as an athlete and coach is making such an impact. So I think that's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun. It's been kind of short as of, it's only year 3 as the head coach, but I feel like I've been here. I have a lot of recruits or parents will ask me like, how long have you been doing this for? And so it's like, well, I started here in 2010, I guess, between a student. And then it was only about 2 years before I started coaching here again. So going in like year 8, I think, of coaching. So I feel like I've been here at C of I since 2010. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
So, whether it's an athlete or as a coach. So definitely been here for a while, but it's been fun. So
awesome.
Last season, the women's cross country team won a national championship. That was super incredible. A lot of my friends are on the team. So talk to us about the key factors of what led to that national championship last year.
I think the biggest thing is, and when the kids listen to this, they're just gonna be like, probably roll their eyes. I'm always preaching consistency constantly, day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year. And that's just how we see the progress that we see from these kids. And then it also starts with discipline. Like you get up in the morning, today, a lot of the older kids, they doubled this morning. And so the kind of first day is a little bit chilly out. You got to get out of bed, got to do it before school. So there's a discipline and then consistency. And that group of girls, just throughout the years that we've had them, that is the biggest factor of their improvement, and, I think the cool thing about at smaller schools is we don't get, I remember listening to an interview from a Division I coach back in the day when I was in school, and he just straight up said, I get the pick of the best kids in the country every single year. He's like, I just try not to screw it up. You basically don't get them hurt. And it's like, at a smaller school, you don't always get that. So you have to be able to connect with kids and develop them. And so that's where the consistency comes from. And so that was something that just across the board, talk to kids, we had obviously Sage Martin, Elise Tingelstad, those girls really developed. They, as we build volume and mileage, where they're running probably 55, 60 miles a week. And then we had Abby Schertz, who had been here for 4 years, kind of had some knee problems, and she's running half of that. And so there's different ways where we wanted to go, but everything that stemmed from that entire group and the current group that we have now is consistency. And so it sounds boring, but it's typically the simplest things that make the biggest difference. If you can do those consistently day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. I say the same thing all the time. They get kind of annoyed by it, but it's true and it works.
For this year's team, did you bring in any new athletes? Is there any new key contributions? And what are the expectations for the season?
Yeah, so we brought in a great class of gals that'll contribute this year. And then obviously just the big thing is just the development of our current team. We're talking about we've got to meet this weekend. So every meet week, I have individual meetings with all my athletes and been talking to all the girls of, replacing, we lose. So cross country, you score your top 5 score for you. And we lost 4 of our top 5 from last year. So you're not going to be able to replace that. It's really hard, especially those top 3 gals that were arguably one of the 3 most decorated athletes we've ever had here outside of Hillary Holt. And so that's going to be very difficult to replace. But, it says a lot about the history and the story of our program where, some people, I know some coaches on campus are like, oh, what does your team look like? You tell them how many people it is. And you're like, oh, so it's kind of a rebuilding year. And you're like, I kind of call it a reloading year. I mean, It's pretty impressive that we're, our preseason rate, we're ranked 6th in the country after losing 4 of our top 5 girls. And so it just goes to show the quality of depth that we have. And, I always tell the girls, the other teams in the country and the Raiders, they don't know what we have. We typically in our programs, we see a big jump from the girls' sophomore year or freshman year to sophomore year. And so going to have some big contributors with Kylie Quinton and Julia Gilbert who have made a big jump this year. And so here soon, people are going to see how big of a jump they made as we start getting into racing more. But yeah, those 3 girls that we lost last year and Charlie, they're irreplaceable. You're not going to be able to replace them. It's not like you just draw a talent like that out of a hat year in and year out. You hope you do. That's great. But the key is developing the kids that you have and the kids that you bring in and stuff like that. Awesome.
And then on the men's side of the cross country team, is that the same thing, reloading, or is it the same guys? And then what's the expectation this year?
Yeah, so we have a really good crew. We're kind of on the men's side, we're quite a bit older. We have some guys coming back using their fifth years from COVID still. So we did lose Braden Heath, which is just a big hit to us. We'll have him in track, but not in cross country. But those top 3 guys that we had were returning from last year have made a big jump again this year. And then again, the development of like that sophomore class is huge. We brought in a great freshman class. We got a transfer from CSI that's going to make an impact. So I'm really, really excited about our men's team. We are in a really good spot. And again, going back to, they were just so consistent. Going basically the last couple of years have just been dialed as far as, hard part about cross country is we really don't give them much of a break. Like they get 2 weeks off, 10 days to 2 weeks off after cross country nationals, and then they're back training again, including Christmas break. Then they go to all the way through conference and outdoor track, get 10 days to 14 days off, and they're training the whole summer again.
Yeah.
And so again, going back to the consistency, like if they hit on the consistency, it's just huge for where we want to go come season. And the guys have done a phenomenal job with that. They had a great spring last year, obviously a great fall, great spring, great summer. So we're in a really good spot. Really excited. The goal is in our storied program, we've never won both conference on the men's and women's side and gotten national trophies from both teams in the same year. So kind of the 4-headed monster is what I've been calling it. So we've hit on 3, but we've never done 4. So that's my goal this year is to, kind of share that with the kids of like, if we control and do our thing, then hopefully that's the ultimate goal, is to try to hit that 4-headed monster and bring home 2 trophies on both sides between conference and nations. So yeah, but we're in a great spot for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on that consistency and discipline that your athletes have. Do you think that stems from something inside of them, or like the team culture, their chemistry? What do you think really drives them every single day to push to compete and get better?
Yeah, I think especially in distance running, like there's no secret. The more you run, the better you get. Obviously, there's a tipping point. You can get hurt. But I think it starts from a young age that they just know, like, if I want to be good, I have to do this. You can't really just get up, like not do anything all summer, get off the couch and then go perform at home. You can't do that. And so I think it's just kind of instilled in them from kind of a young age as they, some of them are, running cross country and track in middle school, high school, and now they're at the collegiate level. But I think it's just something that they just learn from kind of a young age. And then we try to instill it in like what we do. I mean, it is the same thing week after week, month after month of what we do. And everything in our training is consistent. Every Monday we're, driving off campus, going out to the orchards, doing our long run, and they all know that. And so it's that consistency. And I think it kind of starts from the top down of us just, being consistent in everything we do. And so I try to, on my side of things, make that, including in my life. Obviously, I can definitely work on things. That's a big goal for me, is to be more active in running this year personally. So, I did one of my doubles with Daniel Butler today, or did his double with him. But I think it starts from the top and it kind of just trickles down with our consistency. And when they see that, they're like, okay, they're doing the work, I'll do the work. Yeah. So, but
for sure.
And then, so last year was one of the first times C of I has ever hosted cross country meet at the Fairview Golf Course, and it had a really big turnout. What does that support from like the community from Caldwell mean to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I mean, there's no secret, like cross country is not the glamorous sport at all, and so getting the exposure can sometimes be really difficult, but hosting that home meet is like fantastic. It's awesome. And we kind of did some work with Fairview Golf Course, and in order to make it work, we had to take luckily my dad's a contractor, we had to take some parts of a fence down to make the loop big enough to get it done. But worked out a way. We now have gates there, so we can now host in the future. Didn't work out this year, but our plan is definitely to host more. But yeah, the support from the college and the community is huge. The mayor was wonderful. The golf course was wonderful working with us. But it's huge, and our kids both loved it, especially having a local meet for their parents to come and see, different things like that. They don't have to travel as far, but it's huge. Like I said, it's not a glamorous sport. They don't always get a ton of recognition, but when they do, it helps a lot. It helps with the morale of the team and all of that. So, yeah, it was great.
So since you've won a national championship, how do you see your program evolving years on, like from now?
Yeah. I mean, I think, we haven't really changed all that much. Like I said, in the last decade, like our women's team had been national runner-up 4 times. But 2 years ago now, we were 3rd, and then obviously last year winning. And it's again, just going back to that consistency, like, we've got a kind of a formula that works and it works really well, developing athletes. And I think moving forward, obviously you're always trying to look to get better every single year. And so whether that's, whether it's the strength training we're doing, whether it's in training, different areas like that. But I mean, I think, we do works really well. And so I'm not looking to rewrite training or anything like that. It's just so much of it is just really going back to the consistency. And I really pride myself on building great relationships with my athletes. I feel like if they feel cared about and they enjoy the atmosphere and where they're at, they'll perform really well. And that's not only on the cross country course or on the track, but that's in the classroom and that's in life. And so I feel like one of my jobs is to prepare them for life after college. And so to kind of build that friendship and that bond works really, really well. And so it's always challenging. I mean, we have a really big team. We're like just over 100 athletes. And so it's very difficult to try to have that relationship with that many kids. And so, having those individual meetings are huge. That's something we're starting this year. We've always had it in cross country, but we're starting with the track kids as well. And so it's a big time consuming part of my week.
Yes.
I mean, especially typically block out 10 to 15 minutes and I talk a lot. So I typically go over. And so it's a big portion. I mean, it's 25 plus hours of my week of doing those individual meetings, but I think it's important that they feel heard and they don't just, I'm constantly telling them every single person on this team matters. And so I think if we can just continue to foster that culture, the success just falls in. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think you've done a great job kind of instilling that discipline and consistency and just continuing to drive that every single day with your athletes.
Yeah. So seems to be working.
So because you've been a student athlete at the school before, what is your biggest advice for student athletes on campus or student athletes in general?
Yeah. I think a big thing, get involved with other teams on campus and different things like that. We do ask a lot of our student athletes, whether it's, perform in the classroom, do well on whatever, pitch or whatever football field, wherever you might be. But I think so sometimes I think they think they don't have enough time, but just going out and supporting other groups and different things like that, going back to what I just talked about everyone matters and, making sure that kids on your team have a voice. A couple years ago, Connor Vrooman, he was big and he was a music major, things like that. We used to have some of his teammates used to go to his concerts and I went to a couple of his concerts, just different things like that where you're very busy, but getting involved, again, cultivating the culture of your team and the community. What I mean by community, obviously C of I and all of that. And so I think getting involved as much as you can. I think it's down to the individual of what they can handle. Some people are much more introverted. You probably want to do that as much as I would, but so you kind of got to figure that out for yourself, but get involved as much as you can on campus. It just really broadens your experience here at C of I, and any kid that we've had do that just absolutely loves their time here. So I think that's a big key.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for coming in and meeting with us. I think you hit on so many incredible topics and we're really excited for your upcoming seasons and hearing more about your team and the culture you guys have. I think you have a lot of great success ahead of you guys. Thank you, Yote fam, for tuning in to another episode. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Dom and about the cross country and track teams. We look forward to seeing you again next time.